Hello everybody, how's it going? I hope you are well. Today we're going to do a tutorial on 3D decoupage. You might have heard of decoupage before. Sometimes you might see people who take boxes or bottles and they cover them in little squares of paper. That is decoupage, it's layered paper. That's not what we're doing. We are doing 3D decoupage, which is where you take an image and you build it up layer by layer to make it into a 3D picture. So I hope that sounds awesome to you. I'm sure you're going to enjoy this one. Let's jump in and I will show you what to do. So you can buy these decoupage sheets and it gives you the base, the main picture, and then each of the stages that you add on. And some of them are labelled and some of them aren't. Some of them you have to just figure out what goes where. So this one, you get the full picture and then each portion of the image. So you build up to a 3D picture, and that one will end up looking something like this. You can see that there's a nice 3D effect. And you can do whatever you want with these. For example, you could turn them into cards. So these ones weren't decoupage sheets, but I had the images, and so I just turned them into decoupage. You can see the layers, and this would make a really nice little Christmas card. All that you need to do decoupage is a decoupage sheet or a sheet of multiple images. You need scissors or a craft knife or something to cut them out with, and then this is the magic. These foam pads, they are double-sided. You can see how thick they are, and they are double-sided, sticky. So this is what separates all the layers to give the depth, and these are really tiny squares for doing the little details. And that is all you need, something to cut out with and something to stick with, but the thing you stick, it needs to have some depth. That's the important thing. That's what makes it 3D. I have made my own decoupage sheet. It's the first time I've tried it, so the colours are a bit washed out because I didn't have my settings quite right, but it will absolutely give you the idea. So you can completely make these on your own. The other thing you can use that's really good is wrapping paper, especially like children's wrapping paper with sort of teddy bears, something like that on. Anything that has a repeating pattern of an identical image. It has to be the same size, the exact same shape. So this is your main image with all the background. Second layer is the image without the background. The third layer leaves out these flower stems because they are behind the flowers and they are inside the pot, so everything's above them. The fourth layer, you have the dirt, which is in front of the pot, and the snail, which clearly comes in front of the pot. And then the fifth and final layer is the shell of the snail and the little worm coming out of the dirt. So that's the image, the full image. And you can see how this will build up to become a 3D image. So this is what I'm going to use right now. Well, literally all I did was make these in Photoshop. You don't even have to use Photoshop. You could even hand draw these if you were hand drawing it, scanning it in, duplicate it and print it. And you don't have to chop it up like this. You don't have to take all these elements out. You can just cut out. You could just have 5 of these and just cut out certain parts at a time. But I was trying to see what it would look like if I made my own. So you can see that I've got 2 exact sections. I've got 1 and 2. So the first thing I'm going to do is just separate them so that I've just got 1, and then I'll start cutting out. There we are. Now you can see really easily what goes with what. One thing to bear in mind is that if you are making your own, or if you're using something really thin like wrapping paper, you might need to back it onto card. This I've cut out on card. Most printers will be able to print card as long as it's one-sided. Even if you've got a double-sided printer, it will probably only manage one side of card, because when it tries to fold it back over, it'll get stuck. But if you're just printing one side of the sheet like this, then most printers will be fine. So you could even, if you were willing to print them all out, you could even do an A4 size decoupage. If you've got an A3 printer, you could even do an A3 one. All you have to do is make sure you've got enough sections. I'll cut these out however you like, either use scissors or a craft knife. Cut them out however you want to cut them out. Make sure with the very first image you leave a little bit of an edge so that you can tidy it up at the end, or you can decide exactly what shape you want it. So there we are. I've got all the pieces, and so they're going to obviously be done in this order. I think because I've got these tiny pieces, I am going to do them as I need them. If your pieces aren't labelled and you're not sure how to lay them out, then just look at the order. Take a look at the sheet. Now obviously this is the first one, and usually the biggest piece will be the second one. Then you just go down from there. Again, normally they get smaller as you go. So this one would be the third, because you're not going to have all the leaves and stuff before, you know, on top of the flowers. So this would be the third. Then all 3 flowers. Then clearly this middle flower overlaps this side flower. So this would be next. And then the very tip of the flower must be the very last piece. So now completely up to you whether you use a craft knife and a cutting mat, or whether you use scissors. I'm just going to cut the first piece out. Now when you put the stickies on, you want to cover the area as much as possible. Use as many stickies as you need that makes sense for the size. And if you do position them where they can be seen a little bit, you do have an amount of leeway. Make sure they can't be seen behind. Let's have a look and make sure that you can't see any of them on the background. And when you're happy, peel them all off. I would recommend peeling the smallest ones off first, because you're less likely to get stuck to them. There we are. And now, be careful but be confident. There we go. Now it's offset from the background. So even that looks really interesting. You don't have to layer up every layer. You can do as much or as little as you like. That, just the one pop away from the background, makes a ton of difference. Before you throw any of this away, be sure that you have not accidentally swept any of your small pieces in, especially if you cut them all out at once. And now, like I say, I'm going to start with the flowers because they're the smallest piece. So I'm going to separate one off. And I'm going to do this, cut it out and stick it down before I start cutting these, because that's going to minimize the risk. So one of the reasons I chose to do decoupage is because I did it on my Arts and Crafts live stream on Wednesday. So every Wednesday, Arts and Crafts live stream, 7 PM GMT, and I did some decoupage and people seem to like it. It's really easy to do, which is awesome. All you need is scissors and foam pads. It's great. And the fact that you can make your own, I don't think a lot of people realise that you don't need to buy the sheets. You can make your own artwork into decoupage. You can make anything into decoupage as long as you have identical images, like multiple identical images, to be able to build it up. There we go, whole thing complete. I actually feel like maybe because the worm is coming out of the middle of the dirt, so it's obviously in front of this dirt but behind this dirt, if that makes sense. So I actually feel like that looks better. So that is how you 3D decoupage. Now we could do anything we wanted. We could land it on the back of a card, or it's the same thing. The technique is the same whatever you use, whether you make your own, whether you use wrapping paper, whether you use a pre-made sheet. The way that you make it, the way that you do it is exactly the same every time. So hopefully you saw how simple that was to make. I think it looks really, really nice. I think it's great for thank you cards or get well cards or notelets, things like that. I think they look really, really nice. And now I'm going to show you how to make your own sheet, how to make your own thing. The really important thing is that once you've got your base image, once you've done the image and you've got it looking right, you just need to duplicate it and then take out the pieces that are behind everything else. So you have to work out what order your layers go in. Once you've done that, you just cut out the right pieces. So there we go. Now not only can you take a decoupage sheet that you've purchased and make it into something gorgeous, but you can even make your own, which is super cool. So I really hope that you will go and make some of these. If you do, all my information is down below. Show me the pictures that you made. I would be super excited to see them. Also, I'm going to set up a Discord channel for stuff that you were basically inspired by tutorials or streams, so you can always come in and add it on there. That would be really exciting to see. Like I say, if you're into the arts and crafts stuff, Wednesdays 7 PM GMT I do live stream. Thursdays 7 PM GMT I do a tech stream, which is usually going to be sort of game design or game development. At the moment I'm working on a video game called Skewered. If you haven't heard of it, I've got some videos and some other stuff. So check that one out, and again, like I say, below for everything, all the details, Discord, Twitter and all that lot. And I hope to see all the really cool stuff you've made. See you next time.